Welcome to our continuing series of devotionals, A Road Trip Through the Bible. I am Tom Larkin. I preach for the Union Church of Christ here in Somerville, and I welcome you to this study of A Road Trip Through the Bible. Last week, our study took us to Mt Sinai, and we continue there today. This solemn mount is the place from which Israel received the law of Moses. In our last study, we highlighted the holiness of God and saw the essential need of a mediator between God and man because of man's sin. And with that mediation, we are able to enjoy divine fellowship. Now, in our study today, we'll go back to Mount Sinai and examine the kind of people we need to be in order to enjoy that fellowship with God. Listen to God's message to Israel in Exodus chapter 19 and verses 5 and 6. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. This was God's message to Moses to give to his people, the nation of Israel. And in these two verses, we see what God expects his people to be. One of the first things we can notice is that God expects his people to be a sanctified people. That is, to be set apart from all others. The word sanctified means set apart or separated. And God expected his people to be different from all the nations round about. There in verse 5, he said, I have chosen you above all people. 4 other times in this chapter, he speaks of them as sanctified, or he commands them to be sanctified. Now, this is not an arrogant aloofness, as if they are better than anybody else, but it's a distinction based upon God's choice and God's character. Listen to God in Leviticus chapter 19 and verse number 2, when he says, Speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, Ye shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. God sanctified them and expected them to avoid the pagan idolatry and the immoral practices of the nations round about them, and instead be godly, to be like him. This distinction began as an act of God's love. If you'll back up one verse in Exodus chapter 19 to verse number 4, he said, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. When Moses spoke to the nation just before they entered the land of promise, he reminded them of this fact in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and beginning at verse number 6. He says, For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all the people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more than any people, for you were the fewest of all people, but because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep his oath that he had sworn unto your fathers. The Lord hath brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, and from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt. They were to be different, because they were the objects of God's love. Not only do we see them as sanctified people, but we also see that they were God's special people. Above all the people on the face of the earth, Israel were the people of God. Likewise today, God has a special group of people that he calls their own. In 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse number 9, God has the apostle Peter to write, But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. God refers to his people, his special people, in a variety of ways. They're his church, his kingdom, his body, his house, in the sense of being a family. And you note that in the New Testament, God speaks of that special group of people in the possessive. So it's the church of God, the church of Christ, or the kingdom of Christ, or the body of Christ. It is the family of God. All of these phrases are designed to show that this special group of people belong to God. In the same way that he set Israel apart at Mount Sinai, today, God's people belong to him in a special way. And the last thing we note is that God's people are a submissive people. Again, in Exodus chapter 19, verse 5, now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. God's people obey his voice. We submit to his will because he loved us and redeemed us out of sin and set us apart as his special people. God invites all to be a part of his special people. God invites all to be a part of his church. It's why Jesus died, and it's the special message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is my prayer that this study on Mount Sinai has been beneficial to you, and we would love for you to come and visit with us at Union. The time of our services will be on the screen at the end of this devotional. And until we see you, or until the next devotional, we bid you have a pleasant day.